Hi everyone, I'm Nidia Dias. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Cine4D and Ziva HP for having me here. By here, I mean my home office that I share with my husband and where I freelance from. What do? So I'm an art director and a designer, being my main tool Cine4D. And I'm from Portugal, raised and born here, living now here, but I've actually lived before in London and in Toronto as well, and worked there full-time and freelance. So, for example, I worked for studios like FutureDeluxe, Analog, and Tendril, just to name a few. And it's been a great journey, so I've been working in the industry for about 9 years now. Besides that, I've been an ambassador with Ziva HP, which has also been cool for, I think about the last 2 years. And thinking about that, they just released a really cool teaser on their new laptop called ZBook Create, which I'm super excited about because it has a G-force. So once we are able to go out and enjoy that lovely sun, we can also do cool, fast renders. Besides that, I got asked a lot actually, what's my setup? Obviously, I'm showing you my cool background that I use a lot when I'm off, so having my calls. I would show you my setup, but it's currently a mess, especially with the camera there. But I have a Z4 and I have a Dreamcaller display, and I've been recording and showing you all those cool Cine4D tricks in there. A bit about what I'm going to show you, so you have an idea if it's something for you, or if this is too early for you to check this out. I'm going to be showing you from getting a brief all the way to delivering a shot. Now, I'm an art director and designer, so I do mainly style frames and so stills. So I'm going to show you how you can sometimes be clever and simplify a few things to help you with animation and the whole process. Besides that, I'll just gonna show you my reel now, so you have a bit of understanding of what I do overall and what's my style, and hope you enjoy. So yeah, we're gonna start with my reel, and then we'll focus on the whole presentation after this. Crafting a shot from Styleframe to deliver. That's what we're going to be talking today at this presentation. And for this, I'm going to show the semi-permanent project. So it's more of a walkthrough of what I've done, more than really specific to it. Here you can see some of the overall contact sheet, let's call it like this, of the whole piece, which was about 2 minutes, but I'm just going to focus on my part. And my part, I've done actually 2 parts, but this one I'm going to show is the main one. And I'm going to show, like I said, getting that brief and then all the way to the end. So here's the my part so you can see. How to produce and create stuff like this. So initially you get a brief. Sometimes you're lucky and you also get a mood board. So on this one, I actually got an initial brief, which is what you're looking at now. And this was an overall feeling and mood for the whole piece. So not just my part, but for everyone else. So typography, the music, some initial style frames that the director did, just to kind of explore colors, typography and everything, and shapes. Once I was on board with that, the director then sent me a brief that was more specific to me, which is this one. And this one had an animatic edit, and then there was already new style frames as well. And this was very good for me to kind of understand the mood of the whole thing. And she also had some textures reference and how she wanted to look. And the great thing I liked about this brief is that she sent me reference of my own work. So then I could really see what she was expecting from me and what she liked about my work that she wanted to see kind of coming through on this piece. And then again, there was some extra mood board to kind of guide me further in. So once I had this, it was time for me to gather my own mood board as well. So usually I do my own stuff as well. And here you see the pictures that I've actually collected. And here is a bit of a mix, but I was looking into the shapes and forms that that existed already in nature, some that didn't, and how this all could come together for the final piece. And this was one of the main references that the director provided, and I really liked this. So I kind of really dig that one, and I was looking more into textures. And as I was looking into these things, I realized a lot of things were repeated, so kind of like this kaleidoscope. So if you go back to this image, we see that there's elements there that are repeated a few times. So once I was happy with that mood board, I did one for look there. So this is more when I'm trying to look for how the light is going to be, how the material is going to be. And I always like this jellyfish, the way that they move, look. So this was a lot of reference between that kind of like translucent material. Even this kind of like fine hairs here, like giving that extra detail. So animatic style frame. The director actually also had sent an animatic, and this one was it was in 2D, but it was really helpful because it was already with a bit of the music. And then I'm going to talk as well about the style frame I did and how I approached the things I did for this project. But for now, I'm going to show you the animatic so you understand how it kind of started from the director. Usually I start by developing the style frames, and only then I go through to the actual production. But this time I actually did it a bit around. So this is more like it looked at style frame than the initial style frames. And the reason being is, as I was exploring this whole things and how I was going to do things, I realized that, and again, going back to the mood board, that I wanted to get the shapes first, and also making them in the way that I could actually animate them. So that's how I started, and then went in the middle of the process to a style frame. Now, as I said, there's a lot of elements, and that's what I realized is combining all the different elements. So this is all the elements, and I'm going to show you how to do these things. And for that, we're going to be using Scene4D. So I use Scene4D to produce and create all of these elements. And I tried to be clever, so I didn't have to rig per se, because I don't rig. So here's how I've done each element and a bit within Scene4D. So let's call this element 01. And I call them as well tentacles. So I wanted to create something that looked like tentacles, but I wanted to animate them without rigging. So how did I do it? Well, here in Scene4D, I have this basic shape that I created just with a cube, subdivided, and then I'm subdividing it again. But the main thing here was I just used a Mo extrude, which is kind of creating these spikes that we see in the mood board. So it was really going back and forth always to those mood boards. And so these spikes are coming out from all of the polygons, and I'm changing as well the rotation. And this allows me as well to just create an additional layer of animation on top of everythline. And it may not look like much, but I needed to animate this without rigging. So my way to go was, hey, why don't I use a Mo spline? Because Mo spline has a lot of options and out of the get-go. So here's already animated, and I'm just using the simple mode. And if we go into the settings of the simple mode, you can see there's angle, curve, so I adjust those. And then all I did was animating that angle. Now, all we need to do is spline wrap that geometry that we just created, and we have this nice fluid movement. And like I said, from the mood boards, it's all repeated. So all I had to do is put them in a cloner, and we got this interesting shape. And this is how it looks like from that. So quite hypnotic, and it was pretty much kind of spot on as I wanted. So this is element 2, or elements, and there's kind of this coral, some spikes, and so I just wanted to I was layering stuff to create a more complex shape. So if we jump into Scene4D, you'll see here that the way that I did the corals was actually using this X particle cell auto, and it creates out by itself these really interesting shapes, and all from an emitter, and you can change the mode. And all I did was then VDB it. So I mesh it, right? I'm meshing those particles together. And so this is kind of how is this turning out, the animation. But I didn't per se want the animation because I want this to be part of the body of the organism. So once I was happy with the structure and the VDB, I actually made it editable. And because this was just an extra element. And on top of that, again, I added into a cloner and it created these coral things. For this one, it's still part of element 2. I just modeled something and put on a cloner. Now, element 03, and this is the main body of the organism. So I'm going to show you how I've done it in Cine4D with just a few quick setups. So I start with the sphere, and then I'm using this plugin from actually Maxon Labs, which is pretty cool. And I'm adding this extrude modifier, which already gives me interesting things. And then on top of it, I'm doing the inner modifier. So now if I extrude this, I get these shapes, but even if I'm extruding it more, it's getting complex, but it's too harsh, and we want something more organic. So on top of this, I'm adding some subdivisions and I'm smoothing it. So I'm just added the smoothing deformer. And then I subdivide, and then it creates already a much more interesting shape. So all I had to do then, it was pretty much just animate the stiffness, and it felt like it was breathing the organism. So on top of that, I decided to have this texture just to create even more detail. And I didn't want for this placement because I kind of almost wanted just a little ambient occlusion in it. And for it, I actually got a texture from one of the other artists from this project. And I just used the kaleidoscope in After Effects and created this texture that I layered on top. Element 05. So this one is, I'm not going to show how it's done because pretty much this is all using a plugin from Merck, so Tripogen. So I just used a sphere, some settings, and got that. Element 06. So for these ones, I'm going to show the shape and then how the animation. So for the shape, again, start with the sphere. And I just added a bevel. So with the edges. On top of that, I added again the Mo extrude like I've used before, again to create these kind of spikes. But this time it's just short on the Z and no rotation. And it creates this very interesting shape. But then on top of it, I add again bevel and it creates even more detail. So you make it look even more complex. So this is the shape, how it turned out. And then I added this into a cloner, you guessed it. So I'm just animating the radius here on the radial mode. And then I'm adding on top of it the random effector with a noise that is animating it. So again, no keyframes, but barely keyframes. And then element 07. So again, more spheres. And for this, I'm going to show the dynamics. So first I thought of doing it manually, but it just wasn't looking right. Again, it was looking too stiff. And this is all about organic. So here, as you see, I have these elements, and the main sphere for now is just a placeholder. And the spheres around it, they are going into the center. Like I wanted them as from the animatic to go into the main organism. So let me unsolo this. Here we go. So that main sphere is just there representing the main body, and I'm having a collider tag on it. So pretty much I have an attractor inside, and I'm having all these spheres from these cloners going into it. Now, the idea here was, once I was happy with it, I actually made them editable, and I cached the whole simulation for it to be easier to preview. So here's the preview of how this turned out. And as you see, for these shapes, those ones on the spheres, I end up just layering them, so with bevels and smoothings, and created those interesting shapes. Now, once I had this, it was time for me to get the camera there. And this is what I did. It was just a sphere and then just timing it with the beats of the animatic. And once I was happy with it, it was time to put all of these elements together, all of these 7 or 8 different elements all together with that camera movement that I just created, and all those shapes together. And once it was approved, it was time to light it and texture it for the final comping. So this is how it kind of looked all together. And I used, for this particular shot, I used Redshift. So now I'm going to dive in really quickly, just to, again, a walkthrough of how I did it, because it was very simple. So here we are in Cine 4D. And as I see here, I have a dome light. And I always start with a dome light on my scenes, just because it gives me an overall feeling of how it's going to look. And as I was testing the different HDRIs and stuff like that, I liked how this one looked. And I thought for myself that this was actually quite enough. The scene was already too complex, and I kind of wanted it to be all elements to kind of be visible by themselves, not just focus on one. And for the materials, very simple. So this one is for the tentacles, and is literally the preset of tinted glass from Redshift. Just change the color and the idea was, again, I wanted them translucent. So for the main body, it's still like, let's call it the glass material, but I'm using a Fresnel for now, with a ramp. And I'm using some for the bump and just a roughness. And all of the other materials are a mix and match of this, just because simply I wanted the shapes to talk for themselves. So once we had all of this, it was time to do some comping. And for this, I rendered it all out and put everything in After Effects. Now, I decided to render everything, or all elements, separately. So each element by itself, but I did add them all in the same scene in Cine 4D, but I just export them out separately. And this was because I wanted to have control over each one of them in terms of color, levels. I want them all to kind of come together in After Effects, so I didn't have to always go back to Cine 4D if that was something that I wanted to change. So yeah, again, here's that texture layer, then it creates these very interesting details on it. And then again, just a tripogen on top. So most of this was trying to create a lot of depth by adding a lot of layers and elements. So once I added all of them together, this was pretty much, let's call it the render, how it came out from Redshift. And if I go here to my main comp, let's wait a little bit, here's the final comp. Now, I rendered it without background because I wanted to create the background in After Effects. The reason being was I wanted, again, to have control, and I wanted to be super flat. I wanted to be graphical. I wanted to be a shape. And I've obviously exported the camera from Cine 4D to do so. Now, one of the things I added was these particles, and I filmed this with my phone, and he had a lot of noise, and I like that because I want that grittiness in these shots, so it was on purpose. And then on top of that, I did a color balance, and this is where I kind of balancing all the colors together, everything, so it makes them feel part of the same background and all of that. And then it was just like a bit of levels, a bit of depth of field, but that was mainly it. Now, the background was done here just because I really wanted it to be graphical, and having that circle, I believe, makes your eyes go towards this main shape, this main organism. Even if they have the spheres on the side, I really want you to focus on the main one. And then this comp then went into the director, where she added more elements and make sure everything got together. So here's the final. So when I mean the final is with everyone else, it's not just my part. So it's about 2 minutes and something, and it's different artists from around the world. So I hope you enjoy this collaboration. had a lot of fun doing this project. The director, Joyce, did an amazing job. The music was great. We had it from the beginning, so that was a great thing. And I know it was a very quick overview, but I mean, it's a quick presentation. Go follow all of the other artists. Everyone did an amazing part on this, and maybe you find a bit more details. There was even live action as well involved. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you for watching it. And I just wanted to show the whole process, even if it was a quick thing. And if you want to follow me, you can just either go to my website or I'm Nidia Dias, my handle on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you.